Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
We would like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine's 2023 Thoroughbred Stakes program has more than $17 million in purses, including 39 graded stakes, 5 Grade 1 events, and 2 $1 million classics, the King's Plate and the Woodbine Mile. Woodbine, now through December, great racing north of the border. Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrow in the studio. Thanks for tuning in on a wet Sunday. I guess we needed it. And let's get it out of the way before Saratoga comes. Although it can rain all it wants Mondays and Tuesdays during the Saratoga meet or overnight. There was the quirky meet 3 or 4 years ago where that's kind of how it happened. The meet itself was mostly rain-free, but there would be rain Monday, Tuesday. There'd be some rain overnight sometimes. So we have no problem with those situations. And as I say, if we can get it out of the way here, that's fine also. All right, there was some great stakes action yesterday, so we'll jump right into that. First, let me remind you that here at the Clubhouse Racebook today, we do have the match bet promotion. Come on down and enjoy a little extra fun here at the Clubhouse Racebook this afternoon, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. A lot of great action this summer down here at the Clubhouse Racebook. You can check it out. We'll alert you to it here on the network, but you can certainly check it out as well at capitalotb.com. Click on that promotions link, and you'll find out more. But the match bet promotion day yesterday was the win-a-bet, and I went out and got an entry form and filled out my entry form. Being an employee, I can't actually play, but I tweeted out my selections in the win-a-bet. I would have won. If I had the $20-some winner up at Woodbine in one of the stakes races on my entry. So frustrating. You win a contest when you can't win. You get bragging rights, I guess. But had a nice little crowd out here, and congratulations to the actual winner, who also had the Woodbine horse. I just had another one in addition. But again, a fun afternoon here yesterday with the win-a-bet, and more of the same today with the match bet. All right. Do want to note, we'll watch a couple of Belmont stakes coming up, but just Belmont news with limited days left in the Belmont meet, again with Saratoga right around the corner. Jose Ortiz yesterday, 4 wins, and I had read yesterday the lineup getting into the last week or so of Belmont, leaderboard on the jockeys and the trainer side, and I said it looks like it's either Irad or Jose Ortiz. They have a pretty good margin on everybody else. Irad had a little lead on his brother, but after yesterday, 4 wins for Jose, it's now very tight. Irad with 49 wins, Jose with 47. Again, as we're into the last few days of the Belmont meet, so it'll be kind of fun to watch. See who comes into Saratoga with the momentum. But again, going to be fun to check out over the last few days of the meet, which ends a week from today. So keep that in mind as well. Mandatory pays a week from today, next Sunday. And speaking of next Sunday, we'll be live from Saratoga a week from today. We'll have our preseason kickoff to kind of check out the equipment and whatnot. So keep that in mind. This background gone behind me a week from today. Horses working out on Clare Court, hopefully. By the time we get to the 10 o'clock show, that levels off a little bit. But we'll certainly have some fun up there during the meet. There have been a couple of days where the horses have loose horses have wanted to walk into the tent. We've had 2 of those days where luckily they decided against it. They didn't want to make an appearance on TV. They got a little camera shy and went in another direction. In both instances, they were caught shortly thereafter with a good result. So, but it's a lot of fun there on the backstretch in front of Clare Court. All right. And I'm just checking here, and it looks like we do have some buyer figures from yesterday, so I'll be able to toss those out. And it looks like a seriously good one in this upcoming race. We're going to start things out taking a look at the Dwyer yesterday from Belmont. And I said going into the race a number of times yesterday, the sentiment I have expressed for a while now, 3-year-old picture is really up in the air. And so a race like this maybe produces a horse to watch this summer, maybe one to move forward and make a name in this 3-year-old scene this year, this summer. I thought the 2 lightly raced horses were very interesting. I put Harrodsburg on top. 2 starts, 2 nice performances for Rob Atras. Saudi Crown, 2 starts for Brad Cox and 2 wins. So again, they were both lightly raced. To me, they were both horses that were kind of knocking on the door to say, hey, we can make a little noise in the second season. But I noted yesterday, these are the kind that lightly raced maybe step into stakes company and announce themselves, or maybe they finish up a little bit behind and not necessarily get exposed, but more maybe a little more seasoning before they're ready for this assignment. I think we had one of each between Harrodsburg and Saudi Crown. But the horse that the betting public landed on, and the horse that, probably the one to beat with a little more experience, was Fort Bragg from Bob Baffert. Fort Bragg is the number 5 horse. Saudi Crown, one of the lightly raced horses, is the number 2. Harrodsburg, who I like, the other lightly raced horse, is probably one of those that needs a little more seasoning, and I think is still talented, but well back in third. But boy, this is some duel between these two. Saudi Crown is going to come up a nose short. Fort Bragg is going to get it done, but I think Saudi Crown announced himself in only the 3rd career start as a serious 3-year-old to keep our eyes on. Fort Bragg, John Velasquez on board. Again, Bob Baffert ships him east. Baffert said after the race he would kind of evaluate things, whether to send the horse back to the West Coast or keep the horse here in New York. And he said the Allen Jerkins at Saratoga might be on the radar. That's not till the end of August, so we'll see. But again, looking at this race as potentially announcing some horses to make some noise on the 3-year-old side of things. Saudi Crown becomes very interesting. Let's see what they have planned for him. But if they're thinking Jerkins for Fort Bragg, then they're kind of thinking we're going to keep this one short. So, 3-year-old Eclipse is probably not sitting out there. But again, coming out of this race, will there be a 3-year-old to watch? Fort Bragg is a 3-year-old to watch. And I said we had some nice numbers from yesterday. Fort Bragg, a 106 buyer. So he announced himself. But again, if they're looking at the Jerkins, they're thinking to stay shorter. So Saudi Crown becomes the one that may be a little bit interesting to see. And I didn't read any follow-up on what their plans are for him. But stakes debut, battles Fort Bragg, the 106 buyer, which being a nose back, Fort Bragg has to be right there as well. All right, also on the card yesterday at Belmont was the John Nayrud Grade 2 event, $250,000 up for grabs, 7 furlongs the trip. I had at the top of the page, I'd written evenly matched, and I wound up going with Weyburn, who had moved out of Jimmy Jerkins' barn, with Jimmy going over to Saudi Arabia, was in the Todd Pletcher barn. And it was interesting in the paddock before the race, Maggie said, when you look at the horses, the conformation for these two trainers, Jimmy's horses are kind of big and bulky, and Todd's are maybe a little more agile. And she said this had the look of a Todd horse, but that was different for Weyburn because he looked different in the Jimmy Jerkins barn. And she seemed to be, I was taking it, she was a little skeptical about Weyburn. I put Weyburn on top. I went back to the Sir Shackleton last race at 7 furlongs, a couple starts back. We were down at Gulfstream that day. I talked to Jimmy Jerkins. I got a little interview with him for TV in the winner's circle. Subsequently third in the Westchester, but that was at a mile, was cutting back to the 7. Weyburn just never fired yesterday. Weyburn as the favorite That's him in the back of the pack. That's the 3 Chicklet is Wayburn. The winner, however, number 2, 3 Technique, looks pretty good. Pulls away from the bunch here at 5-1, running second at 20-1 Synthesis, and Candyman Rocket, the second choice at 9-5, will run third. But look at 3 Technique. Started the career in the barn of Jeremiah Engelhart for Bill Parcells, subsequently claimed and been running various other venues, Churchill, Kentucky for the most part, Churchill and Keeneland going down the page. Won an optional claimer at Churchill in the prior start, and then comes up to New York and wins. And as they say, wins very convincingly, looks very good. He winds up with a solid 99 buyer. Javier Castellano on board, 4 trainer Jason Cook. And it was very interesting. The follow-up article by Dave Grenig in the Racing Forum noted this was Jason Cook's very first graded stakes win, and he's been training, according to the article, since 1991. So that was a big win for the Connections. Said he was going to point towards the ACAC at Churchill in September and probably have one more start in between, but noted it was probably unlikely that it would be up at Saratoga. So we'll see what's up next for 3 Technique. Jose Ortiz, who was on board Wayburn, said, it was quoted in the article, said just never kind of got into the race and he was working on the horse and just never seemed comfortable. So we'll see what's up with Wayburn. But boy, that was certainly a disappointing finish for that one. Flip side of the coin, though, 3 Technique looking really good. And again, fun for the Connections. First graded stakes win of the career comes in a nice grade 2 at Belmont. Also yesterday, a couple of stakes down at Delaware. I mentioned yesterday when I talked about these 2 races, the Robert G. Dick Memorial and the Delaware Oaks. Oftentimes these horses will play into races, stakes races coming up at Saratoga, so we can watch with that in mind. And the Robert G. Dick Memorial, mile and 3/8 on the grass. Graham Motion got it done. I used the other Graham Motion for Volley, who 10-1 on the morning line. I had big question marks written. I thought this horse isn't going to be 10-1. No, for Volley goes up as the 9-5 favorite. So the morning line whiffed a little bit there. But maybe the morning line can do something. For Volley winds up last in the field of 7, while another Graham Motion runner gets it done. It'll be number 7, Sopran Basilia, who I also had in my mix. But boy, you can see there, sneaks up the rail nicely at 7-2. Ever Summer at 21-1 second, and Parnak runs third at 8-1. So you had some prices mixing up in there. But again, it was the other Graham Motion runner. They were flip-flopped. They were correct, at least as far as being better in the odds with the morning line. Sopran Basilia was 6-1, and Favali was 10-1. As I say, Favali went off at 9-5, and Sopran Basilia went off at 7-2. So they flip-flopped as again their positioning odds-wise. But Sopran Basilia, both of those, Favali and Sopran Basilia, started their careers in Europe, and both had run well in one start so far in the United States. But the winner had run in the Gallaret Pimlico down there on Preakness weekend and run a decent second, follows it up with a nice win. You know, it's Matacat and Company, Graham Motion. I would think, again, these races tend to play out and some performers will come up. The Dick Memorial and the Delaware Oaks come up and vie for stakes positioning up at Saratoga, and I would think that would be the case for the winner here, Sopran Basilia. So we'll take a look for that one. A nice performance there, and an 87 buyer. So a fair little buyer figure for that one. And I would think we'll see that one up at Saratoga. And I will note also the Robert G. Dick Memorial down at Delaware. Graham Motion wins yesterday. He has won the race 9 times. That's a pretty good record for a nice little turf event down at Delaware. Also on the card yesterday at Delaware, as noted, the Delaware Oaks, as the name would indicate. These are 3-year-old fillies. I used Fireline. It was Chad Brown and it was Juddmont, 2 for 3 in the career. The 3-year-old debut back in the middle of May was an improved effort with a number that matched up nicely with these. So Fireline to me was very playable. Betting public agreed, making that one the 4 to 5 favorite, but winds up 4th in this field of 8. The winner, Foggy Night, goes off at 14 to 1. The number 1 horse, Opus 42, the 3 runs second at 16 to 1. And Miracle, number 8 at 5 to 2, runs third. And as you can see, Fireline, a well-beaten 4th in her stakes debut for Chad Brown and Juddmont. But the winner, Foggy Night, going out for Butch Reed, came in off a couple of starts at Parks, including a pretty solid optional claiming win in the prior start, albeit with a number that 70 as compared to the winning number for Fireline last time, the 88. So on the numbers, Foggy Night looked a little light, and the betting public was thinking so as well, making that one 14 to 1 and an 81 buyer. So jumped up pretty nicely, Foggy Night. You know, it was the 7th career start, and the previous buyer best was 83 last year, 73 last year as a 2-year-old. So jumps forward nicely to an 81, goes up 8 points from the lifetime best, goes up 11 points from the last start. So Foggy Night steps forward nicely. We'll see. As I say, sometimes these races play into races up at Saratoga. There's certainly some big 3-year-old stakes for the fillies up at Saratoga. I'm not quite sure Foggy Night is in that category. So we'll see. Again, the winner in the previous race, if you looked at the Grand Motion Turfer, I would think probably shows up. Foggy Night, I'm not quite as convinced there. All right. Why don't we take a break, and we'll come back and look at some more action. We have some stakes, nice stakes day yesterday at Woodbine, really nice stakes day at Ellis as well. So again, why don't we take a quick break? We'll come back and take a look at some of that stakes action as Racing Across America continues. A little bit later on, our regular Sunday visit from Tony Calo, do a little preview of some of the Monday action coming up out at the Finger Lakes. So again, all of that coming up right after this break.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Seth Merrow in the studio. Really appreciate your joining us this morning, as usual, on a Sunday morning, doing a recap of some of the Saturday stakes action. Up at Woodbine, big stakes day yesterday, and had some interesting storylines, including in the Nassau Grade 2 event for the fillies and mares going a mile on the grass. Storyline there was Moira, her second start of the 4-year-old season. She was the winner. Stepped up, faced the boys in the Queen's Plate last year and won pretty convincingly. close-up second against talented older runners in the EP Taylor. Then she tried the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf and wound up 5th. Came back to begin this season and just missed an estate back in the beginning of June. So she was back yesterday in the Nassau, and she went off as the 4-5 favorite in here. I had her on top. I liked her. Howard Kravitz was on yesterday from the HHH Racing podcast. He thought Millie Girl was a little bit interesting. I agreed with him. I thought Millie Girl was an interesting player, 10-1 on the morning line. Millie Girl eventually went off at 7-1. She's going to wind up 3rd. Moira is going to wind up 2nd, but a well-beaten 2nd because Fev Rover, the number 8 for Mark Casse, is States and run a couple of times, run 3 times, last year. And had run okay with a win in a grade 2 up at Woodbine. This was her seasonal debut, though. Man, she may be better as a 5-year-old. She wins. Chart margin is 4 1/4. Moira runs 2nd, a pretty clear 2nd over Millie Girl. And again, Millie Girl, the horse we talked a little bit about at the price yesterday on Racing Across America, completes the trifecta at a nice little 7-1. So certainly worth the conversation and worth tossing into the mix. But Fev Rover, that was a very nice performance. A 94 buyer. That's right in her wheelhouse. Again, this was her seasonal debut. But last year, since arriving in the United States, she had run a 92, a 93, and a 93. So 94 moves her forward for the first start in the 5-year-old season. But just, incrementally, she's right in the ballpark. But a nice little female turfer from Mark Casse to keep our eyes on there. And Moira, ran okay. I think, again, betting public was expecting a little more at 4-5. And it was a well-beaten 2nd. I mean, she's over 4 lengths back, but she was clear of the 3rd place finisher. And again, a couple of 2nd place finishes so far this year. I suppose for the connections and fans who bet her, it was a little bit disappointing, but they're not going to win them all. And she's not the kind that, in a career of 10 starts so far, 4 wins and 3 seconds. She runs very well, but she doesn't win them all. And again, waiting for that first win of this season, but she'll get it. She's a talented runner, and that was an okay try. But Fev Rover, Mark Casse, Patrick Husbands, with the victory in the Nassau yesterday at Woodbine. Also on the card yesterday at Woodbine, the Dominion Day, a mile and an 8th for the 4-year-olds and up. I used Tyson on top, and decent little day with the ideas I had at Woodbine. Tyson lightly raced for Josie Carroll. Treason was 2-1 on the morning line for Josie Carroll, went off at 3-2. Tyson was 6-1, went off at 4-1. I thought the longer half of that uncoupled entry was a little more interesting. Tyson by Tappet, lightly raced, 2 for 3 so far in the career. Those were the first 2 starts, then tried Stakes Company last time and ran third behind Treason. But I thought, you know what? That was the stakes debut, got some stakes experience. Maybe we move forward on Saturday. And that was the case. Tyson gets it done. 4th career start, the Josie Carroll trainee gets it done under Rafael Hernandez, $10.30. And Treason, the other Josie Carroll, runs 2nd. Again, it's the 3-2 favorite. Gaston runs 3rd. But it is a Josie Carroll exacta here. $33 for the exacta, and nice performance. And Tyson will be one that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. You would think Josie Carroll will keep an eye on this one, kind of north of the border. Came in with a nice little bullet workout at the end of June and lived up to that. And again, this is now 4th career start, 3rd win, stakes win under the belt. Treason ran very well. Treason's also a talented runner for a Josie Carroll and a stakes winner also. So again, nice day for Josie Carroll. But Tyson kind of stamps himself as one to watch with only 4 starts under the belt. and 3 wins, including the stakes win. And a 101 buyer, a solid triple-digit buyer. Highest buyer prior was the last start, the 93, so jumps up nicely in career start number 4. So Tyson, as I say, probably one to watch north of the border going forward. Wins the Dominion Day yesterday as Josie Carroll has a nice 1-2 finish in the race. Also on the card yesterday at Woodbine, the Highlander, 6 furlongs, grade 2 event, $200,000 up for grabs. A 6 furlong turf sprint. I thought Macedo was interesting in here for Mark Casse. We were looking at 5-1 on the morning line. Went off just a little bit below that. But it was up, and Macedo winds up a disappointing 7th in the field of 9. The favorite at 2-1 was One Timer. Howard Kravitz yesterday liked that one and thought that horse was probably going to be the one to beat. I was a little concerned with the outside post. At the sprint distance, it's not as much of a concern, but you still have to find a little position early. And at 2-1, kind of a lukewarm favorite. One Timer, the number 10, winds up 3rd. 9-1, number 6, Oceanic, runs 2nd. But at 14-1, Lucky Score, I was not a fan of this one, but Mark Casse, not just a nice day, a nice season as he typically has up at Woodbine, and he gets it done here with a Gary Barber and Company runner. Lucky Score, the number 5 horse, you can see sneaking up the inside there to get it done. It was only start number 2 of the season. Had come back in an optional claimer last time and run a good 2nd. That puts some fitness under the belt for Lucky Score, and follows it up with a nice stakes win. Again, 14-1, $30 and change there. And in the Highlander Lucky Score, a 100 buyer and lifetime bet. That jumps up nicely. Lifetime best prior was 90. So Lucky Score in only the 2nd start of the season. Nice graded stakes winner on the year. And as a 5-year-old for Mark Casse, with essentially the entire career, I think, up at Woodbine, that one's probably up there as well. We'll see. I mean, given Mark Casse, wouldn't be shocked to see that one. It's a turf sprint. Wouldn't be shocked to see that one come down and try Saratoga, perhaps. But if so, keep Lucky Score tucked away as a name to pay attention to, because looked good yesterday with the triple-digit buyer win. I noted there were some stories yesterday, and one of those was in the Saline, a grade 3 event, $150,000 for 3-year-old fillies going 1 mile and 16th on the synthetic up at Woodbine, and it was going to be the synthetic debut for Wonder Wheel. Wonder Wheel had such a phenomenal 2-year-old season. We had Mark Casse with us up at Saratoga last year, and he was raving about her. She winds up the 2-year-old filly Eclipse champion, won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly last year, and then came back and ran a close-up 2nd in her seasonal debut at Tampa. And Mark Casse thought, good way to start the season. Follows it up with a poor performance in the Ashland and another poor performance in the Kentucky Oaks. Mark said, I brought her up to Canada, get her some cooler weather, maybe get started again. We'd like to maybe try her on the turf. We'll see what she does on the synthetic on Saturday. Wonder Wheel, the number 6 horse, goes off at 3-5. She's the 6 horse, as I say, and you can see the chicklet way in back. She winds up 8th in the field of 9. Again, this was the one that got me the victory, the theoretical victory in the Winnebet contest yesterday. I like Solo Album. Solo Album, the number 10 horse, goes off at 9-1, gets it done. Honor the Lady at 7-2 runs 2nd, and Tito's Calling runs 3rd at 45-1. But a nice little price. And the other, Mark Casse, again, the longer price of an uncoupled entry. Mark Casse had Wonder Wheel, who went off at a short, chalky price and winds up in the back of the pack. But that he, he's the trainer of both. He knows what he has in the big favorite, so that he was willing to take a shot. Had a couple of starts earlier this year down at Gulfstream. A little improvement from start 1 to start 2 on the season down in Florida. Then comes up to Woodbine and wins very nicely to break the maiden in career start number 6. And just had the feel of maybe a horse that was moving in the right direction. And I was kind of trusting Mark, as I say. He knows what he has in Wonder Wheel, so that he takes this one and says, let's step right into Stakes Company off the maiden breaker. I thought intriguing. So Solo Album does get it done yesterday in the Saline. And again, winds up with a 92 buyer in the effort. So another one, another winner on the day for Mark Cassidy, although I'm sure that's the kind of race you always wonder as a trainer because you have your champion runs up the track, and that just has to be super disappointing, but you wind up winning the race. So you talk about mixed emotions. And finally, up at Woodbine, the Marine, 3-year-olds going a mile and a 16. And I like Turf King here. The betting public did as well. So just kind of master the obvious in here. Turf King moves north for Chad Brown. Came into this with a couple of wins in 3 starts. Last time tried the Jersey Derby down at Monmouth and ran 3rd, but makes up for that here. Number 5, Turf King, as you can see, holding off the number 4 horse at 6-1, Midnight Rising at 5-1. But again, it's the even money favorite. Turf King for Chad Brown does get it done. And the buyer, 85, which ran an 87, running 3rd in the Jersey Derby last time. So the 85. We'll see. Again, a 3-year-old had been on the turf in a couple of starts, had started the career on the synthetic down at Gulfstream. We'll see. Has okay turf form. What'll they decide to do? I suppose they could pick some spots up at Woodbine or look out at Presque Isle maybe if there's a 3-year-old stake out there. But the turf at Saratoga, being a Chad Brown runner, is certainly a legitimate thought and possibility as well. So Turf King getting it done. Again, lightly raced, but having shown some talent. All right, let's quickly pop through some of the Ellis races yesterday. Let's take a look at the big race, the Stephen Foster. I liked West Will Power, but I thought it was really a wide open race. I liked West Will Power. I could just as easily have gone with either the Ken McPeak runners, Smile Happy, coming off the 110 buyer victory in the Ali Sheba, Rattle and Roll off a 3-race win streak where he's kind of stamped himself as a player in the handicap division. Last Samurai, who had run so well down at Oaklawn this winter for Wayne Lucas. But West Will Power tends to show some speed. Speed's been very prominent out there at Ellis so far. And West Will Power does stalk and then pounce late. Kind of stalked off Speed Bias, who was setting the early fractions. The horses that were up front early actually fade here. So Speed wasn't as potent here other than West Will Power. That classy Speed held up. West Will Power's there in front, but a nice late run from Rattle and Roll. Happy American 3rd, Last Samurai 4th. Smile Happy disappoints running 5th off of that big 110 buyer victory. But West Will Power kind of took advantage of the speed favoring track there. Stalked, it was right off the early speed on the turn, went by and had the lead coming into the stretch, and it's just hard to make up ground. Now, again, that said, the horses were up there close early, kind of faded, other than West Will Power. And Rattle and Roll, to make a little closing effort there on that track. Rattle and Roll is going to be very interesting to watch going forward in this handicap division. As I've said a number of times through his last couple of victories, last year he was kind of a second stringer on the 3-year-old stakes scene. They tried him in things like the Indiana Derby, won the American Derby down at Churchill, won the St. Louis Derby, won the Oklahoma Derby. So he's on that second tier and performing okay, but not in a way that made you think, oh, he's one of the top tier 3-year-olds. But then starting this year, he's looked pretty good. He's matured nicely, and he's an interesting player now in this older division. So he'll be one to watch. And again, being a Ken McPeak trainee, we'll see what Rattle and Roll has. Saratoga is certainly possible. And being a Brad Cox trainee, Gary and Mary West Willpower is possible. I didn't see any thoughts on the follow-up, but I will note West Willpower yesterday, a 102 buyer in the victory. So a solid win yesterday in the Stephen Foster. And Brad Cox, they noted it in the winner's circle. Brad Cox also goes into the record books as having won the first ever $1 million race at Ellis Park. It was their richest day ever because these races were all moved over with the situation at Churchill. So it was a big day, certainly yesterday at Ellis. Also wanted to take a look at the Fleur de Lis just because, it was a little bit disappointing after scratches. Scratched down to a field of only 3, and funny things happen when there are short fields. Big favorite was Amore. I liked Amore. Went off at 42 cents to the dollar. Pauline's Pearl certainly had back class and looked like the logical contender if you were looking for another choice. And Bellamore was kind of the long shot in the field, but with a field of only 3, went off at 7-2. And we'll watch him come down the stretch. And Pauline's Pearl, you can see there in the Stone Street colors, just grinds him down. Amore, the number 6, is trying to get past Bellamore, cannot do it. And while those two are looking eye to eye, Pauline's Pearl just kind of saunters on by under Joel Rosario. So again, quirky things happen in short fields. Now, subsequently, the stewards looked and did disqualify Bellamore from 2nd to 3rd. So Amore wound up officially in 2nd. But Pauline's Pearl, as I say, it was a quirky race because Amore looked to have the edge in there. Pauline's Pearl with some back class, but the last couple of races not quite as good. But she kind of sits off, let those two, as I say, look each other in the eye and duke it out, and then she floats on by. West Willpower, as I said, with a 102. Pauline's Pearl with an 87 yesterday in the Fleur de Lis. And we'll take a quick look at a couple other races at Ellis, just because, again, 2 horses. One is a fun story and one maybe one to watch going forward. But in the Kelly's Landing, I took a little pop with Tejano Twist, but as I talked about the race quite a bit, I said, boy, I really like Bango. Kind of rooting for Bango. I've had Greg Foley on the show a couple of times, including a couple of summers ago live up at Saratoga. And Bango was coming off a couple of nice performances, a stakes win at Churchill 2 back, and a second last time in the Aristides behind Gunite with a nice 105 buyer. So coming in good form. But when I looked at this calendar last year at about this time of year, he faltered a little bit. And so I was a touch skeptical of Bango. I had him right underneath, but I thought Tejano Twist could be interesting. Tejano Twist is going to be the number 7 horse, and I thought I'd made the right move. It has a little bit of momentum coming here on the outside. You can see the 7, and I thought, I think maybe I'm going to get going. Maybe I'll make this interesting. And then Tejano Twist kind of flattens out a little bit. But Bango, the number 2 horse, does not flatten out. He guts it out here, wins by half a length under Masalis, who I thought was also a player miles ahead, runs 3rd. And again, Tejano Twist, who, 8th bowler. So I thought, going to get the momentum and float on by. Flattened out to run 4th. So that was a little bit disappointing. But again, it was fun to see Bango. Tyler Gaffalione on board for Greg Foley and company. It was a nice performance there, and a 99 buyer figure for Bango. Greg Foley upsets also a little bit later on. The Wisdan was stitched. So nice to see, some of these little, work-a-day kind of stables have a big day like that on a big day. Greg Foley with Bango and Stitched, 2 stakes victories on the day. And finally, I wanted to show also the American Derby, because this is, again, that subdivision I like quite a bit. And I think this may be a 3-year-old turfer that we'll want to watch. We'll take a look at the American Derby yesterday, and Wadsworth is one I had on top for Brad Cox. Tried the turf for the first time in the previous start, the Caesars at Horseshoe Indianapolis, and just missed running second. Ran second behind Gigante, who was also in yesterday. But I thought Wadsworth, with only the one turf start, may have a little more upside, and does. Wadsworth is the number 2 horse, Mustache the number 1, Desert Duke the number 3. But Wadsworth, nice stretch run here. Winds up pulling away to win by a length, goes off as the 6-5 favorite. And as I say, he's going to be a little bit interesting, I think, on this 3-year-old turf scene. 92 buyer, so a nice little number there that kind of pairs up with what he'd done last time on the turf over at Horseshoe Indianapolis. So again, it's Brad Cox. Florent Geroux was on board. Godolphin. Wouldn't be shocked to see this one up in some 3-year-old action at Saratoga this summer on the turf. But he did make a little bit of noise there on that 3-year-old turf side of things. Also wanted to note before we take our break and go to Tony Calo, interesting, there was an article in the Daily Racing Forum yesterday. Jerry Hollendorfer turning over his Monmouth stable to his longtime assistant, 29-horse stable at Monmouth. Jerry Hollendorfer is going to go back and have a smaller stable in California. Of course, a few years ago, was suspended, banned at Southern California, Santa Anita and company. And so he had been kind of doing Oaklawn and Monmouth, had some horses at Del Mar, and he's going to be back at Del Mar this summer. I think it was like an 8-horse stable he would have out there, but kind of stepping back. Looks like 77 years old. So maybe just, reassessing and kind of scaling back. But his longtime assistant, who's been with him for years and years, will take over that group at Monmouth. So the point being, if you're looking at those Monmouth races and you see here's a trainer now, previously Jerry Hollendorfer, that's the situation if you're playing some Monmouth this summer. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll take a look at some of the Monday action at Finger Lakes with Tony Calo, as is our usual spot here on Sunday. So stay tuned. All of that right after this.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, our weekly visit with Tony Calo from the Finger Lakes. Tony, good morning.
Morning, Seth.
Happy to have you on board, and we'll take a look at we'll do a little preview and review. Take a look at the stake we talked about from last Monday. Turned out to be a nice little event, the Ontario County. We'll do a little preview of action for tomorrow as well. But you guys are right in the heart of holiday week also. Yeah, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday schedule includes the 4th of July. Anything at Finger Lakes, notable plan for the 4th holiday?
Well, we're doing our usual stuff. We're giving away on-track programs, so all on-track patrons can get a complimentary program. We've got our chicken barbecue. We've got a couple of food trucks coming in, one with hot dogs and stuff like that, an ice cream truck. We'll have our how to bet seminars for all the newbies, and you can get a $5 racing voucher by earning some points on the gaming floor. So just the same stuff we've been doing year in and year out with the holidays. We've got a stake race for our 3-year-old fillies, the Niagara, a 9-race card, and we'll start 1:15.
Nice. And so if people want to pop up the throughway, certainly think about the Finger Lakes to spend a nice holiday. Are you a fireworks guy? I love the fireworks. I got to find some place to go on Tuesday night.
I was funny. I was talking to my girlfriend about it. I'm not the greatest fireworks guy. You've seen one display, you've seen them all, but
that is true.
It is what it is. If I go years without seeing them, then it's pretty cool. And obviously, it depends on the atmosphere. If I'm at a barbecue and got a few cervezas going down, hey, fireworks, why not?
You are right, though. It is kind of true. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. But I like them, so I always look up. And a couple of weeks, well, this is going back a month, and I still have no idea why it happened. I take a walk in Saratoga Park most days, and I was walking, and again, this was about a month ago, and I got over kind of behind the Saratoga Performing Arts Center, and there was a group of guys clearly setting up fireworks. And I said, "Oh, wow, when's the show?" And the guy said, "Tonight." And it was like a Tuesday. And I said, "Well, I'll be back." So sure enough, I went back, and there was a big fireworks show, but I had no idea that nobody was really watching. I was kind of the only one sitting there. So it was nice. It was like a private show.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I guess this day and age, fireworks happen. You know what? I guess anybody can have their own celebration. Hey, I hit the pick 5 yesterday. Let's have some fireworks.
And I'm thinking it had to be something there was something going on in the Hall of Springs, which is the event center there, but people weren't really coming out to watch. It was very strange, but I enjoyed it. So, all right, let's as I say, go back.
Seth, it's funny you talk about fireworks. My neighbor texted me the other night. Hey, it's my son's daughter's birthday tomorrow. We're going to be setting off some fireworks here in a bit. You might want to check it out. So I'm like, okay, I'm like, and it's funny. I just got off the phone with my girlfriend about fireworks. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. What are the chances of this? So I go sit on the deck, and all at once, they've got like these little things going in circles in their backyard, and it was over before it started. And I go in the house, and then about a half an hour later, I think the real show went off. So I don't even know. It's like, oh wow.
That reminded me. For years and years, my family had a house up in Maine because my dad grew up there, and we kept his family house. It was right on the water, so we'd go up, and there'd be a big show down in Portland every 4th of July, and so the family would typically be up there. And we went down, and one of my craziest memories, there was a big park with a hill, and everybody would sit on the hill. Thousands of people from Portland, and they would fire them off down near the water. And one year, when you talk about, well, has it started yet? One year, there was a bunch of fireworks going off down by the water, not in the air. And there was kind of a murmur in the crowd, like, is this the beginning? What's going on? Well, then it became huge, and then it became much huger. And then sirens started going off, and then an announcement came on, fireworks show is over. So they had started while they were still in boxes on the ground, I guess, and luckily, nobody was hurt, but it was a whole different kind of a show that year, and it was big, but it was over in like 3 minutes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I got a funny, since we're on fireworks, Seth, you never know where we're going to go. But, so two years ago, I met my girlfriend. She lives in a small little town in Pennsylvania, about a half an hour from Penn National, and we're just hanging out, watching TV, and all of a sudden, we hear fireworks at the intersection. And so we rush out there, and some guy had pulled up in his car and put on like a 5-minute display and drove off. I've never seen anything like it. we still talk about it like that was awesome. Here's a guy. Hey, you know what? This looks like a heck of a place to set up shop. He had his little fireworks display go for 5 minutes, and he drove off, and we're all waving at him. He's all smiling. It was classic, man.
He's like the Uber Eats of fireworks. You call up, they drive by, they shoot a fireworks off, and there, yeah. Yeah, very good. All right, let's.
Hey, maybe we're on to something here. This could be our new gig for next 4th of July.
Of course, that's it. You got the one day a year where it works. But all right, let's jump back in. Last Monday, we previewed it last Sunday, and this was a nice little stakes race. The Ontario County, $50,000 up for grabs, and looms boldly, who has proven to be a really nice little state bred. Brad Cox, Marshall Graham's 10-strike racing, looked very, very competitive and went off as the even money favorite. But close up on the odds board, we talked about Acoustic Ave, who looked really good last year as a 2-year-old for Christophe Clement. Well, those two square off, but we'll watch the stretch run. Looms boldly, getting it done as the even money favorite. Acoustic Ave runs second. Dr. Kraft runs third. But again, nice little talented New York bred gets it done in Looms Boldly in the Ontario County. Your thoughts?
Yeah, speaking of fireworks, what a live wire, huh? Looms Boldly was pretty impressive. I hope we get to see both of them come back to the New York Derby. I'm hoping that's why they both showed up. I haven't really dove into their pedigree to see if the two turns is within the realm, but boy, the way Looms Boldly looked, I got a feeling, and I'm hoping he's coming back. And that's back-to-back pretty impressive Ontario counties. Last year, we were very fortunate. We got Rodney, who's a pretty nice horse. And Rodney looked really good winning on, I believe it was the Belmont weekend when he won a nice allowance race against open competition. So we've been pretty blessed the last couple of years with our Ontario county.
Yeah, you would have to think. I mean, Marshall Graham, I would think he's game. And if he has a nice little 3-year-old New York bred, you would think he'll – New York Derby will be on the agenda, and maybe the Albany and whatnot. I wish they would bring back that Big Apple triple concept.
Yeah, I do too. I talk about it a lot with one of our horses buried in the infield, the Great Tin Cup Chalice. That was my first year here at Finger Lakes, and I'd got on the grounds, and I'd bet Mike Lasessi golfing with some other guys, and everybody had told me about Tin Cup Chalice, and that was pretty cool. I was at Saratoga when he won the Albany, and we were going crazy. And I was in the simulcast area after a day of racing when he won the Indiana Derby when it was at Hoosier Park. And boy, that horse really provided a lot of energy for all of us. And that whenever I hear the Big Apple Triple, I think about Tin Cup Chalice.
Yeah, that's right. The Indiana. Yeah, he was very talented. And again, the New York bred program has just gone leaps and bounds. I was there the day Fio Rito broke through the gate and subsequently won the Whitney to kind of, I always look at that as the real kickoff to the New York bred program. But New York breds now can compete at all kinds of levels. And Looms Boldly looks like he may be one of those that has the potential to move up against open company as well. All right, let's go and take a look at some of the action for tomorrow. We'll kick things off taking a look at the Monday 5th race. We're looking at B condition claimers going 5.5. Nice little field in here. I Love Jackson certainly has some back class for Jeffrey Engelhardt. 4-1 on the morning line. A little bit interesting there. But what did you see in race 5?
Well, Seth, what are you're tapping into my thoughts? Huh? I Love Jackson, brother. I love sharp horses, and I Love Jackson is very sharp. And I also love when Jeff Engelhardt steps up in class. Jeff wins at such a high percentage, and a lot of times it's on a significant class drop. And an angle that I've caught on to the last couple of years here is when I see Jeff step a horse up in class, that's telling you something, because he will jam whenever opportunity presents itself. And he might be stepping up at the right time, because this is an 11 with a couple of conditions, and a lot of the horses are just kind of a little bit in and out of form. And Valuable Will's never been a big win machine. Letter Carrier Henry, he hasn't won since November of 21. Tommy the Torch has only won one race in the last couple of years. Sam A's probably the horse to beat if he runs like he did on the 15th of May. Our man Mike seems to nibble a lot. why not take a shot with past class? I Love Jackson, conveniently to the outside, and he closed into a very soft pace last time. I always say never underestimate a sharp equine. And here's a grizzled veteran, salty veteran that's finding his form from yesteryear. I'm going to come right back with him.
Yeah, step-ups like that are kind of situational for me, but this one I like the confident move. Had a nice win last time against 5,000 conditionals and now moves up. But the way he won last time, I think signals he's going to fit with this bunch today.
I would agree. And like I said, there are question marks surrounding everybody else. Stuck Up's last victory was in a conditioned race at Presque Isle where all of his success has been on the synthetic. You know, I Love Jackson. Look at the bankroll, fans. One more victory, and he's over $400,000. He's got a lot of past class, and he ran well to run down Devious Banker last time. Devious Banker should have won the race, and if it wasn't for the presence of I Love Jackson, that horse was going to the winner's circle. Let's come back with the salty veteran on the outside.
Andre Warry on board is having a very, very good meet. Boy, this sixth race is really a nice looking field. State bred allowance runners going 5.5, but notable in here some of the human side of things too. Robertina Diodoro shipping in with High Tone. Last race down at Churchill. That one off the claim is interesting. And then both Engleharts. Warlow, the number 6 horse for Chris Englehart, to me is intriguing off the win to start the season. And again, another Jeffrey Englehart runner off the claim, Gray Wing. Tossed in a clunker last time at Thistle, but interesting, they claimed the horse out of that and come back to New York with the New York bred. This is a fun field in the 6th.
Yeah, Seth, hey, great analysis, my friend. Hey, we're looking for somebody to replace Tony Calo one of these days. You know, you got what it takes, Seth. That was pretty good. And I'm just kidding about replacing me. I need my job, Seth. So back off me, my man. Back off me. But you know, I like Honor Among Men. He's very speedy. I know his best race is very dangerous, and it is cool that Diodoro's in town bringing his horse in. I know Troy Smith has told me that he thinks Candy Zip can flat out fly. He thought he was going to be quicker than New York Anthem last time. I really don't think anybody's as fast as Honor Among Men along the inside. I love the way he looked when he first showed up here last year. You know, he came to us from Santa Anita. Then he had been claimed out of an aqueduct affair. And, you know, other than the one race where he was pretty dismal, against Nueva York on the 13th of July. And that wasn't really his fault. They just cooked that day. They went 21-3. Nobody's going to stick around going that kind of pace there at Finger Lakes. I'm going to come right back with him. If for some reason they go with him and they put him into the ground, he can't finish. I think the one's pretty intriguing. I love the one's effort 2 back against Horn of Plenty. Last time out, he went 2 turns, and I don't really think he wants any bit of that added real estate. He looks to be a pretty good, legitimate late-running sprinter. I find the one an intriguing alternative to Honor Among Men. I'd use both of them if I was playing the pick.
Yeah, as you're talking, I'm looking at the one, that race 2 back, which was a very similar event. The close-up second kind of says the 8-1 here. Maybe a nice little price if you want to play around with the one. Can't beat me in there. All right, race number 7, state bred allowance, 1.70 miles. Hey, it's another fun field in here. Co-conspirator comes in from Kentucky. Raylu Gutierrez is named to ride. That's a little bit interesting. Dates Freedom moved up from Naira. I like that venue move, and he lived up to it as the favorite last time, winning at the Finger Lakes. And Give Me the Money is interesting in here as well. It's another fun race on the Monday card. What do you think in race 7?
Yeah, very good race. Raylu must be in town, I guess, for enjoying the 4th of July. So he's going to ride for his dad, Louis Gutierrez, for co-conspirator. At least he's named on the horse. Thought the race looked like it had a little bit of pace. Give Me the Money on the stretch out. Son of Darkness is an absolute freewheeler along the inside. Ring Good has been known to be somewhat forwardly positioned. You know, it looks like Dates Freedom's going to have the race flow to his advantage. He's sharp. He's coming back. And I give him the big edge. I think he's definitely the horse to beat in this spot. The horse I find intriguing is the one horse Shared Success. He ran some races last year around those 2 turns that would make him very competitive. I like it when he has targets to pursue, and that will be the case. He's coming out of a pretty good sprint race where he just wasn't quite up to it against Forward Motion and Father Walsh. I don't necessarily like the spacing of his races. I would like a little bit more time. You know, he comes back on 16 days. Now he's coming back relatively quick again. But he ran some races last year that make him a player if he can ever get back to that form. But State's Freedom, the horse to beat, and my intriguing alternative here in this race would be the One Shared Success.
You talk about the comeback. I'll ask you as a handicapper, because I often look at, particularly if it's unusual, but the horse is getting the normal breaks we would consider 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatnot, and then all of a sudden the horse comes back within like 7 days. I always think the barn must know something in those situations.
That's a good point. I battle with it, with my thoughts. My dad taught me a lot about spacing of racing when I was a young kid. That was basically how he had most of his success with handicapping, and I try to this day to still implement it. It doesn't necessarily apply at Finger Lakes as it does at some of the bigger circuits with maybe some of the stakes horses and upper allowance levels. But I listen back on Ron Ellis a lot of times on TVG talking about how he feels like horses need 4 to 6 weeks between races to get their optimal performance. And I always say to my friends that, here's a horse who's been off for 6, 7 months, 5 months during the winter. Okay, isn't that race going to be more taxing than most of his races the rest of the season? Because it's his first off a long layup. I know if I haven't gone for a walk or a run, I haven't gone for a run in years, so that's not a very good analogy. But let's say if you go hit the weights, right, and you haven't lifted for 3 or 4 months. Well, that first time out, boom, you might come out with a big run, a big effort. But if you wheel back too quick, you're going to really mess yourself up for the next couple of efforts. So that's kind of I like to see horses come back, maybe get a good 3.5, 4, 5 weeks off, then come back. But like I said, sometimes my theories here at Finger Lakes, they don't necessarily apply between my spacing and works and all that. I get made out to seem like a fool more often than not.
Yeah, as I say, it just always piques my interest when they could, because it's so out of the norm when a trainer does that. I kind of think, maybe they know something. And hey, sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. But
I'm a little more inclined, Seth, once the regular cycle of performances has been happening. On the second start off the layoff and the third start, I'd like to see a little better ideal spacing. That's my little knock on shared success. But hey, I guess, you know what? You don't get paid to sit in the barn, and sometimes you got to round yourself into shape.
Yeah, and I have no argument with that theory as well. And part of it also these days, you have the luxury of typically looking at the trainer stats, although most trainers don't have many stats, the 1 to 7 day layoff, but sometimes something jumps out there as well.
Oscar Barrera back in the day.
Yeah. Or Rick Dutrow with had the stakes runner went 2 days in a row. And I think won the second. I can't think of the horse now. It had to be 20 years ago, but I think he won the day after, and it was a day after.
He might have won the King's Bishop. Very similar, if that's the same horse. I'm not sure.
I think you've got it. Yeah, it was now I'll have to look it up. Hey, Tony, as always, appreciate the conversation. If you find some fireworks or somebody, I'll send Uber fireworks out in front of your house. I can't wait.
I'm gonna. You know what? I got the lawn chair going out there right now. I'll wait till it gets a little darker, a little bit later, Seth. All right, buddy.
Hey, appreciate it, Tony, and happy holidays to you and everybody out at the Finger Lakes. We'll talk again.
Sounds good.
Tony Calo from the Finger Lakes, and again, they're right in the thick of that holiday period with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday racing. So Tuesday being the holiday, as I say, if you want to pop out on the thruway, keep that in mind, or just watch here on the network as well. They do have that. Again, those were 3 nice races we looked at for tomorrow, but the stakes coming up on Tuesday as well. All right, I'm going to wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America. Seth Merrow in the studio. Thanks for joining us. I will be back in an hour or so with Racing Across our OTB Live for a Sunday afternoon. We're wrapping up Racing Across America, and we'll take a look at some Belmont, some Monmouth, and again, typically on a Sunday afternoon, we pull a little Saratoga harness into the mix as well. So it should be a fun day, a fun Sunday afternoon. Will be a fun day Sunday afternoon. And do want to remind you once again that the Match Bet promotion takes place here at the Clubhouse Racebook. So if you'd like to come down and join us here today, 711 Central Avenue in Albany, we'd love to have you down here and maybe a little extra fun with the Match Bet promotion this afternoon. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up for Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrow in the studio again. Always appreciate your tuning in. Back in about an hour and a half or so with OTB Live for Sunday afternoon. We'll see you then. We would like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine's 2023 Thoroughbred Stakes program has more than $17 million in purses, including 39 graded stakes, 5 Grade 1 events, and 2 $1 million classics, the King's Plate and the Woodbine Mile. Woodbine, now through December, great racing north of the border.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.